Armageddon, and I'll do a few things in math because I love doing math and with regards to this, but there's so much more to Armageddon. And the other factor is, if we look, most people when they're thinking of the judgments, they look at the two main death issues, and those are the fourth seal, and then they look at the trumpet where 1/3 dies, realizing 1/3 of when you've already taken off 25% is actually the same number. So it's one, at our current population, it's about 1.92 billion that die in each of those judgments. But they don't really look at the wine press. And when you do the math on the wine press, it becomes very interesting. And the reason for it is because we are given some very specific information. And the wine press is in Revelation 14:20. It's 1,600 stadia, which is 200 miles long, at a height of about 4 feet, and it's blood. Well, how many people is that? If we estimate it's about 1.35 gallons a person, okay, and we don't know what the width is, so we'd have to estimate. We don't know, and we don't know the shape of it. You know, is it elliptical? Or, you know, for math, it's easier to do it for a triangle, to come down to that depth of 4 feet. If I estimated it 100, and it's just an estimate, of 100 feet wide, with the center point being 50 feet, so coming down to the 4 feet depth, because it comes up to the horse's brindle, which is about 4 feet. That is 1.57 billion gallons of blood. That is the blood of approximately 1.17 billion people. Now, again, we don't know what the real width is. It could be high, it could be more. It could be more than 100 feet. And again, an elliptical is going to even increase that. What's interesting, though, is not that. Because obviously it's a huge number of people that are dying. And these are the only ones we really have real numbers on. We have Wormwood, where many people die, but it doesn't say how many is many. But when we start knocking off our population, which right now we have 7.85 billion, actually that's what we should have in 2021. So the fourth seal should knock out 1.95 billion, or, you know, so 5.9 billion left. The third trumpet, just again, many, how many, I don't know, so we can't really even do the math on it. The sixth trumpet, we have 1.95 billion dying again, so that's 3.95 billion left. The wine press is going to bring you down to right around 2.7 billion. And in Armageddon, how many people are going to die at Armageddon? And we don't know that answer. You know, how big is that army size at Armageddon? And one of the things people look at is they try to say, okay, well, it's Revelation 9:16. Well, Revelation 9:16 is on a completely different issue. That's when things are going out from the Euphrates. That's a 200 million man army. Is the army at Armageddon that size? I don't know. Is there any correlation between the two? I don't know that answer. But if it is, that brings about an interesting thing, because if we take those numbers of those who die, including we've got 7,000 that die in the earthquake with the two witnesses, of course many people who die from the two witnesses. But if we run the rough numbers, it would be approximately 66% of the human population that would die during this tribulation, Great Tribulation. Now that's an interesting thing. So 66.6%, I think you can see number of the beast. And what do we have from Zechariah 13:8? In the whole land, declares the Lord, 2/3 will be struck down and perish, yet 1/3 will be left. The word land there is Eretz, the whole earth. Now we always thought about that as just Israel, but Zechariah 13:8 appears to be talking about the entire earth. What's also interesting is if Zechariah 13 goes on to say, you know, I've refined the 1/3 through fire. They're mine. The 2/3, or 66.6%, are those for the beast. It's kind of interesting how it plays in. a little bit here. Now, the other thing I want to think about with Armageddon, though, is do the people in the army, when they come to Armageddon, do they realize what's happening? Now, again, the Antichrist and the false prophet will be taken by captive. And the people in the army, are they going to realize our leaders are gone? Are they going to start suspecting we're on the wrong side here? Now, the Antichrist is a great deceiver, but at some point in time, you got to think their brain starts kicking in to say, I think we've got it wrong. I think we might be on the wrong side. We came to Israel. I heard about these things. And, and then we can start looking at really what's going to be happening here. And, what's left of the world? Roughly all the major cities should be destroyed, probably a nuclear fallout from the sixth trumpet, because it happens within an hour. Nuclear bombs, but with the way that's really going to happen, where you can wipe out that many people in such a short period of time. So what's left of the world? It's basically a nuclear wasteland. The water and things in Israel come from the abyss, and we'll probably have some rain. But I start thinking most of the world starts becoming a desert at that point in time. And so everybody wants to be to the kingdom. But so they show up for Armageddon. And a number of things are happening. One, we've got this hail that's a talent weight. Now, a gerah is 0.57 grams, so 11.4 grams for a shekel, which is 20 gerahs to a shekel. We know from Ezekiel 45 that a mina is 60 shekels. Now, how many minas for a talent? Most things will try to say it's 60, but if we look at Exodus 38, verse 25 and 26, we can do the math and it indicates there's 50 minas to a talent. So at that weight, a talent should be 75.39 pounds. So this hail that's coming down is 75 pounds, roughly, 75.39 pounds. Now I'm going to show you a picture of a 2-pound hailstone. These hailstones would be 37.5 times larger. So the photo is about 5 inches in diameter. And if the hailstone that we're dealing with is the same weight per cubic area, it'd be a diameter of 30.5 inches. So this big for the hailstones that have a terminal velocity, I've ran the math, of 279 miles per hour, or 449 kilometers an hour, or 124.8 meters a second. It would have a force upon landing with that amount of weight, okay, coming at that speed of 4,243 newtons, or 432,686 pounds of force. 216 tons of force when it hits. Okay? Now, tanks are safe from that force, but the soldiers aren't. The tanker trucks aren't. All the airplanes, they're not going to make it. That's going to just go right through their wings and fuselage. Missiles are gone. They're not going to be able to work. No missiles getting through that hail. Now, for example, a 45 bullet has 1,200 pounds of force. This is 432,000. So, a lot of force. These things, again, it's something coming like that. If it comes and hits your arm, you don't have an arm. I mean, it would just disconnect it. Now, in Zechariah 14:12, this is the plague with which the Lord will strike all the nations that fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh will rot while they're still standing on their feet. Their eyes will rot in their sockets, and their tongues will rot in their mouths. On that day, people will be stricken by the Lord with a great panic. They will seize each other by the hand and attack one another. And the same thing's going to happen upon their animals, which is an interesting thing because, maybe from the EMP blast from nuclear bombs that came from the sixth trumpet, most of the electronics are gone, so their vehicles may not be working. They might have to be coming in there with animals just to try to start this war. And again, it's just not going to work out too well. Their cars, those cars are gone. If let's assume they've got a Humvee or some other type of Jeep type of product or truck, whatever, these hailstones are piercing the skin of that, the roof line of that. Those people are dead. So it's a horrifying time, and you just think, that's a death. And of course, they're running out. And we have to go bury them. It takes 7 months to do an initial burial, and then we're doing it for a long time thereafter. We mark it, and then people come and collect the bones because the animals have eaten the body, and we bury those bones in that same area, the Valley of Armageddon. But the other thing to think about, again, we're dealing with Armageddon here. And again, I think the world is basically just garbage at that point in time. I think it's starting to become a desert, and I think it will become a desert. And that's where it comes into the factor. If they don't come to Jerusalem for the 3 festivals, then he just withholds the rain. And because it's pretty much probably a desert at that point in any time for the earth as a whole, excluding the kingdom, then they're just not going to make it. So when we go back to the kingdom, some of these places and houses that we'll get will be tall. Are the elevators going to work there? And I would say, at least initially, they wouldn't. But if we use their weapons for fuel in 7 years, fuel to me denotes electricity. So it looks like eventually we'll get those things working. As Ezekiel 39, verse 9 and 10, then those who live in the towns of Israel will go out and use the weapons for fuel and burn them up. The small and large shields, the bows and the arrows, the war clubs and spears, for 7 years they will use them for fuel. They will not need to gather wood from the fields or cut it from the forest, because they will use the weapons for fuel, and they will plunder those who plundered them and loot those who looted them, declares the sovereign Lord. So again, it's saying fuel, and we don't need to use these things. I think, again, when we get to the kingdom, we've been in tents for 3.5 years. I don't think we're going to be too stressed out about not having electricity, because we're going to be used to it. For 3.5 years, we're going to live without electricity. So we're used to it. But I think it'll start coming back. It doesn't take that much effort to get the electrical systems up and running and to get the elevators working. And the lights in the stairwells to work, so you're not banging your heads on things. And trying to walk into your houses with sticks, sticks that are on fire. So I think we'll get those things going. I don't think it's going to be that long or that hard. I just wonder about the issue with, the Armageddon. It doesn't say, and it does say the Antichrist is a great deceiver, but I just start thinking, when they're showing up in Israel, they've got to start realizing, man, we're on the wrong side. And it's, again, another issue. Again, those who are in the army were doing cleanup, but the cleanup is minor because the Messiah is taking care of almost all this. When they start killing themselves, and their eyes are rotting out, there's just not much to do, because our eyes should really be on the Messiah coming. So he's taking care of almost everything here, so we can really deal with the bigger issue, and that is he's coming back, and he's coming back in glory.